This episode is brought to you by Vital Farms. Isn't it bullshit to have to question where your food comes from? At Vital Farms, you can trace your pasture-raised eggs all the way back to the source, the pasture. On the side of each pasture-raised carton of eggs, you'll find the name of the farm where your eggs were laid. And when you look the farm up on their website, you'll get a peek at all the sunshine, fresh air, and open space the hens enjoy. Learn more and find out where to buy them at vitalfarms.com. Vital Farms, keeping it bullshit-free.
This episode is brought to you by Kia's first 3-row all-electric SUV, the Kia EV9, with available all-wheel drive and seating for up to 7 adults, with a 0 to 60 speed that thrills you 1 minute and available reclining lounge seats that unwind you the next. Visit kia.com/EV9 to learn more. Ask your Kia dealer for availability. No system, no matter how advanced, can compensate for all driver error and or driving conditions. Always drive safely.
This episode is brought to you by Shopify. That's the sound of switching your business to Shopify, the global commerce platform that supercharges your selling. Harness the best converting checkout and same intuitive features, trusted apps, and powerful analytics used by the world's leading brands. Stop leaving sales on the table. Discover why millions trust Shopify to build, grow, and run their business. Sign up today for your $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/tech23.
LinkedIn presents.
Welcome to the Human Capital Innovations Podcast. We're your source for personal, professional, and organizational growth and development, where we share original research, explore industry trends, and interview executives and thought leaders from across the globe. We hope you join us often for practitioner-oriented content around all things related to leadership, HR, talent management, organizational development, and change management. Maximize your personal and organizational potential with Human Capital Innovations Podcast. Do you enjoy the Human Capital Innovations Podcast? Enjoy ad-free listening by going to the Patreon page, and please consider contributing even at the producer or sponsorship level. And please leave a review. Thank you for your support. Welcome to the Human Capital Innovations Podcast. In this HCI podcast episode, I talk with Stefan Debois about how to automate your expertise. Stefan Debois, welcome to the Human Capital Innovations Podcast.
Thank you, John, for having me.
It is a pleasure to be with you. You're joining us from Belgium. I'm south of Salt Lake City in Utah. And today we're going to be talking about how to automate your expertise. This is a general concept that I think is really powerful, one that I'm excited to explore with you today. As we get started, I wanted to share Stefan's bio with everybody. Stefan Debois is the founder and CEO of Pointer Pro, an assessment software platform that helps professional services companies to automate their advisory processes. Stefan is passionate about the use of technology to build professional relationships with people at scale. Before founding Pointer Pro, Stefan worked for 15 years in several consulting companies as a consultant, project manager, and account manager. And I could go on, but I'm going to pause there. Stefan, anything else you would like to highlight for me or the audience before we dive on into the conversation?
Not really. Like back when I was a consultant, I have seen that most consulting companies are already doing a pretty good job when it comes to automation in the back office, like systems to automate like invoicing, timesheets, and stuff like that. But when it comes to the actual client work, giving the advice, working with clients, then there's not so much automation yet. And that's something that we want to tackle with Pointer Pro. It's automating really the advisory process, the core process of what the consultant actually does.
Yeah, well, and I think we all recognize the power of automation. For one thing, most people don't want to be stuck doing all these little nitty-gritty, repetitive kinds of tasks that just seem to kind of suck up your time and don't allow you to do the creative stuff that you'd rather be doing. So automation, it's like delegating, right? You can just delegate that, get it off your plate so you can focus on other things. But when it's automated and you're utilizing software, various technologies to do it, then you really just up the ante for the overall efficiency and productivity, not just for you as an individual, but for your whole team. And so it's a no-brainer in this day and age that we want to seek automation, whatever that looks like. In a manufacturing setting, we're going to have, robotics and various things like that. In an office setting, we're going to utilize various softwares, technology, AI, etc., so that we can make sure that we're getting the most out of our people and setting them loose, setting them free to do what they do best and not waste their time doing the stuff that easily the computer can do, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's the most like transactional advice processes, the ones that are repetitive and always. I'm not saying that they always deliver the same advice, but deliver maybe different advice, but according to a same model, according to same logic or methodology that is always used to give over and over, like advice over and over to different clients in those kind of situations.
Yeah.
Automation is really beneficial.
Yeah. Well, and I think of in the HR space specifically, if we talk about that for a moment, the evolution of HR from personnel management to really transactional HR, these behind the scenes, payroll stuff and just various technical stuff that you just have to do to make sure that the organization hums along with in terms of the workers. Over time, what we've seen is a shift from personnel management to transactional HR to now really a transformational HR approach, strategic HR, where we're allowing people to utilize their people expertise, their leadership, their change management expertise to drive initiatives that are meaningful and impactful. And you let the computers do the transactional stuff, right? Or you set up self-service portals where employees can do a lot of that stuff on their own, where previously you needed full-time people who are dedicated solely just to do that and do the paperwork to help their employees take care of everything that they need. So that's just within the HR realm as an example. But of course, it could apply to marketing, operations, any functional area of a business can find great efficiencies and productivity gains by fostering a climate where you adopt and adapt to the automations that are available. Maybe you can tell us a little bit more. I mean, certainly at Pointer Pro, you have your own approach. So you feel free to tell us more about that. But just generally speaking, when we talk about automation, how have you seen things shift and change over time, say over the last decade or so, in terms of the types of tools that are available, the types of automations that can help organizations just be more efficient, more productive, and unleash their people to focus on what matters the most?
Yeah, of course. When I was a consulting in consulting firms, we were responsible for implementing like these huge enterprise systems in mostly at big customers like Nestle or Atlas Copco. And yeah, that was really wall-to-wall automation, like ERP systems, CRM systems, customer relationship management systems, and yeah, those projects were often multi-year projects, multi-million also in terms of investment. And I'm not saying that those are, I mean, I would certainly recommend to do this again for these companies. But the time between the start of an initiative and when it delivers the first results was quite considerable, like in terms of years. And now it has evolved, like with SaaS, software as a service, cloud computing, to much smaller applications, which are still powerful, but which are interconnected, and where you get quicker benefits. And it's, I mean, the customers also expect that, and I mean, they do rightfully expect so. So now we are talking more about months when something should deliver results. Of course, you cannot change the ERP system of a multinational company in months. I'm still realistic, But you could start with like one division or one country or whatever, and then have already some benefits there, and then go on with the rest of the organization. So by new technologies, the primary benefits of new technologies, I think that we can have fast results of these kind of initiatives.
Yeah. And where do you see AI fitting into all of this? Of course, just in the last 6 months, ChatGPT, Bard, and all the integrations and all the tools that people are creating, it seems like we've taken a huge leap forward in terms of automation in the last 6 months. How does that fit into the work that you do at Pointer Pro? Where do you see that taking us, say, in the next couple of years?
There's still a lot of work to do besides AI. There's still a lot of work to do by just automating human intelligence, or like just without the artificial part, just putting human intelligence and converting it into a system, and then let the system do the work. That's the first thing. But of course, I mean, the potential of AI is huge, I think. And I think that for consultants or professional services, they will need to have I think on the longer term, they would need to have their own AI that is based on their own data, all the experience that they have built up in the past. That should feed, because AI needs data to become smarter, of course. So all that experience and expertise should feed into an AI system, which is of course proprietary to that consulting company, and that should generate then like automatic advice to generate benefits for customers much faster than it is happening today. For example, like a legal consultancy, if they have already had some similar cases in other countries, or like if it's a big organization, not everybody will know which are different experiences in the rest of the organization. That is something that could typically be handled by AI, and more powerful insights would be generated then in the case of it when a human would do that. But there is still a lot of big significant work to do there, because we have now ChatGPT takes the whole internet as learning platform. But similarly, I think consulting companies should have their data as a learning platform, and then outperform ChatGPT in their specialization area.
Well, yeah, I think that's absolutely right. And there's all sorts of security and data concerns related to that, right? In terms of proprietary data within an organization, but every context is different. And so, it's great having Bard, ChatGPT with internet as kind of the data input, right? To drive the algorithm and to get good information back, but you're largely getting generic information back, right? Because it's the whole of the internet. It's all of the insights from all over different situations, contexts, industries, specializations. And so the power of utilizing similar technology, but training it specifically on your organization's data is really powerful, because then you can come back with very detailed, specific, completely relevant types of outputs. Whereas, ChatGPT, sometimes you just get fairly generic sounding types of stuff that's not actually going to be helpful in your situation or in your context. So it's really interesting to think about how that will continue to develop over time, what the security concerns are about that. And of course, there's the ethical concerns around it too, and How do you train the data that trains the AI? Of course, if the data is biased in the first place, it's going to create a biased AI that's going to then perpetuate biases. So all of this is the type of stuff we need to be thinking about from the AI perspective for sure. But there's no question that it could be a great tool in terms of increasing the automations, the efficiency and productivity of a team, of an organization. But you also highlighted something that I think is really important, and that is before we even get to AI, there is so much automation that can be done just with human intelligence and automating the repetitive types of processes that we are doing already. If you're kind of a smaller business, maybe you haven't really leveraged these technologies as much, it's really worth taking the time to explore the tools that are out there, connect with people like Stefan, with organizations like Pointer Pro, and figure out what you can do to really hypercharge your productivity in your organization and free up and unleash the potential of your people to do the stuff that they're going to want to do the most anyways. The creativity, the critical thinking, the strategic thinking, and the innovative stuff that most people get excited about. Most people don't get excited about filling in a spreadsheet or trying to just keep track of requisitions and invoices or whatever. Like, we can name a whole bunch of different types of things that frankly software can do in most cases very, very well. You take out human error often so that you don't have those types of problems, and it's just a win-win for everybody, right?
Yeah, exactly. What we also say is that, like before, automating these kind of advisory processes as a consultant, HR consultant, or can also be a consultant in other domains, that there's a couple of steps that you have to do prior to automating, because otherwise the automation will not work. So we always say there's 3 steps basically. And the first step is that as a consultant, you have to stop doing everything for everybody. Mm-hmm. If you're still doing that, then you have to stop doing that. You have to specialize in certain service offering, or maybe more than one, but not shooting too broad, because that will hurt you. So a couple of service offerings that you can specialize in. That's the first step. Then secondly, for each of these service offerings, you should consider to go from time material business model to fixed price business model if you're not doing it already, because it's better for you, it's better for the client, it's better for the client because he knows what he's going to pay and what he's going to get, and it's better for you because if you have fixed price, then you can apply efficiencies, and then the efficiencies will return or will result in profitability increases. Whereas in time material efficiencies, if you can do the same work in less time, will just result in less revenue, which you don't want. So that's the second step, fixed price. And then the third step is to create a model, a quantitative model for each of your service offerings. And that could be very simple maturity model, or it can be also more complex, of course. But if you have done like projects in one of the offerings, like over and over again, like at different customers, then you have the model anyway. You have it in your head. You know the different performance levels and which questions to ask. To know whether a new customer, for example, is a beginner or is already quite advanced in this specialization area. For example, I'm always taking email marketing as an example. You could check whether if you're an email marketing consultant, whether people already collect emails for the first place, and then of course you're not going to give them advice on how to do sophisticated newsletters if they don't collect emails in the first place. So the model is really designed for or intended to determine the performance of a prospect or a customer, and then give advice based on that performance level. And the advice will be different, of course, to someone who is not collecting emails yet, and someone who is already very sophisticated, and you will give different advice. So if you have done these 3 steps, then you can afterwards then put that model in a system like ours, and then the system will give the advice automatically. But that's 3 other steps are required to do that.
Yeah, that's excellent. And I'm wondering, as we think more about this, you start the process. So if you're not doing anything, start with those 3 steps, like you said, and then we can fine tune as we go, and we can start to leverage different tools. What do you see as some of the biggest barriers, the biggest challenges that organizations, that leaders are facing as they're trying to think around these issues of automation, how it's going to impact their teams? I do think there's a healthy level of fear that certain people have around automation. People, team members feeling concerned about losing their jobs because their jobs are going to be automated away, and team leads, having to deal with those dynamics. That's just one example, but what are some of the types of challenges that you see organizations and leaders facing as they're trying to move down this path towards more appropriate automation?
Yeah, perhaps the first one is that we have also conducted a study where we asked these kind of questions on how they, what their thoughts were about automation. And yeah, there's quite some that say like, my job or like my work cannot be automated because like it's always different at different customers. The situation is different. So the projects are always different. There is no, for that reason, there is no automation possible. That's a challenge that is not true in the sense that, of course, like the actual advice that you give and the work that you do for customers will be each time different, but it's your task as a consultant to discover the model, which is like the commonalities which are under the hood, so to say, and which are similar to every customer. That is your responsibility, and if you stick to the same service offering, then you will discover it after you have done the same type of projects over and over again. So that's the first thing. Like a second challenge is to the fear that the human interaction will disappear by automating. Yeah. Of course, if you automate the invoicing process and the timesheet process, that is like in the back office. But if you automate also like the advice delivery, then yeah, the customer can already get advice by like digitally by answering questions and getting then an advice report as a result from that. Whereas in the past that would be done by consultants. Yeah. That's an attention point, I think. So that's a valid point. What we say then is that the result of the first assessment or the most transactional advice delivery, that result should be then in the next step discussed with the consultant in a face-to-face meeting, and then you free up the time from the consultant to do more valuable stuff. And that relates also to your remark then to the consultant or people fearing to lose their job. We don't see that so often as an issue because we are in the war for talent here in Europe, also in the US. Consultancies have spoken with Deloitte last week with a partner at Deloitte. They are all struggling to get people. The fact that you say to consultants that transactional work will be taken out of their hands and then given to a system, to a specialized software tool, they will not be opposed to that.
Yeah. I think it's always something that we just have to navigate, and depending on the culture of your team and the personalities within your team, it may be more or less challenging. I do think it's important that we foster a culture of continuous improvement, continuous ongoing learning. And part of that means that we're constantly learning how to be more productive, more efficient, how to utilize the existing tools that are out there. And so if we have people that are resistant to that because they're scared about the possibility of becoming irrelevant, that their jobs will go away, I mean, it's almost a self-fulfilling prophecy, because if you're not constantly learning, you're almost guaranteeing that you will become irrelevant and that your job will go away. But if you're leaning into the new technologies, you're learning and growing, figuring out how to utilize them, what's going to happen is your job's not going to go away. You're going to become the rock star who's more productive and efficient, who then is freed up to do other cool stuff, and you'll have plenty of opportunity to contribute. So people who are worried about losing their jobs due to automation, I think we're just thinking about it all wrong, if that's your concern. Of course, will certain tasks be displaced and taken over by automation? Of course, that's always been the case since the age of the Industrial Revolution, and now we're in the Industrial Revolution 4.0. You know, we're in the knowledge economy, we're in the high tech economy. We've always evolved, and we've always had to be adaptive and to learn continually so that we stay relevant. And so as a team lead, we just need to make sure that we're fostering that kind of an environment, so that people know that, yeah, like, continue to learn, continue to grow, continue to utilize these technologies, stay more relevant because of it, make more contributions because of it. And then at the end of the day, you know, we just do better stuff, we do better work, and we'll create more opportunities for ourselves, not less.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, in our vision, the professional services industry will transform into not only services, but we think that every professional service company in the future will need to offer a digital tool to their customers, yeah, where their customers can log in and they can see several things. They can do three things basically. First is self-assess their performance and get automated personalized advice. That's the second thing. And the third thing is monitor improvements over time. So it's, I mean, it's easier said than done. But if you as a consultant deliver that tool together with the services that you deliver, that will create a real competitive differentiation. And we want to offer that kind of tool to smaller consultancies also, so that not only the Deloittes and the EYs and so do have enough power to develop these kind of digital tools, but also smaller consultancies can use these tools. And I mean, that's of course why we exist also, but we want that digitalization results in democratization also. That it's not only because of digitalization that only the investment is to enter to create such digital is quite high, and that is only for the big ones. That would be not the world that we want to see.
Yeah. Well, Stefan, this has just been a real pleasure. I know at the time I need to let you go here in just a minute, but before we wrap things up for today, I wanted to give you a chance to share with the audience how they can connect with you, find out more about your work, your team, and then give us the final word on the topic for today.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, if people want to connect with me, I'm mostly active on LinkedIn. So just send me a request. Always happy to share experiences with the listeners. If you're interested in the company or the product, then you go to pointofpro.com. That's our website. It contains information, of course, about the product, but also a lot of things about digitization of professional services. Check it out. And last word maybe about again about this democratization. We want to democratize the tools that are needed to automate advice. But as a result of that, I mean, that's for the ones that give the advice, but you have also the one that receive the advice. There we want really to democratize the professional advice itself, because by the fact that there is so many manual work involved, labor, professional service is quite expensive, like financial services or specialized legal service, quite expensive. And by digitizing, it will also become more affordable for the one that receives the advice. For example, in the US, we have an ex-private banker who is using our software to give financial advice, like digital financial advice. But then it can be, there's no threshold anymore. Like to go to a private bank, you need, 500,000 or 1 million in net assets. But to get digital advice, you don't need this kind. It's open for almost everybody. So that's an example of democratization. So yes, it was a pleasure, John. Thank you for having me, and hope to hear from you again in the future.
Thank you, Stefan. It's been a real pleasure. I encourage the audience to reach out, get connected, find out more about what Stefan and his team can do for you. And as always, I hope everyone can stay healthy and safe, that you can find meaning and purpose at work each and every day. And I hope you all have a great week. Do you enjoy the Human Capital Innovations podcast? Enjoy ad-free listening by going to the Patreon page. And please consider contributing even at the producer or sponsorship level. And please leave a review. Thank you for your support. Thanks again for joining us for this episode of the Human Capital Innovations podcast. I hope you stay healthy and safe and that you have a great week.